It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. Let's get out of here. Aye.
Hello everybody, it's Brother Aaron from God in a Minute. We're going to talk about this chart, just like the days of Noah and Lot, the Rapture, the Second Coming, all that kind of stuff. Let's just do a dive in here. This is Luke 17, where it's talking about the Son of Man coming. This is Luke 17. I'm just going to show you. Here's Lot and here's Noah. And so we'll just read from here. For as lightning that flashes out of one part under heaven shines to the other part under heaven, so also the Son of Man will be in his day. But first he must suffer many things and be rejected by this generation. And as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be also in the days of the Son of Man. They ate, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise, as it was also in the days of Lot, they ate, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they built. But on that day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone. So it also tells us to remember Lot's wife. So we got this theme of Noah and Lot, Noah and Lot. Look at Noah and Lot. And so this clue was given to me by Sister Jessica. Her username is Jesus is Lord in my Discord if you do want to reach out and talk to her. But so she had said, hey, Aaron, Noah, there were 8 people on the boat. Noah and one of his wives, 3 sons and their wives. So that's 8 people. There's your 8. And then the story of Lot. So we got Noah and Lot. There was Noah and 2 daughters and his wife. Nameless wife and nameless wife. So there's 4. So 8 from the Noah story and 4 from the Lot story. 8 from the Noah story and 4 from the Lot story. And if you guys remember, I did a video about a month ago or whatever, and I shared a picture from CJ Lovick's video where you start from 1948 and you go with the 7-year Shemitah cycles, and you go 7, 7, 7, 7, that's 7, and it goes all the way to 2032. And that last 7, it's like that, a different color. It's kind of like got this red color. So you got 77 years, and then you got your final 7. And that's our potential, time stamp right now of what we're looking at. And so when you look at this chart here, you've got 8 on Noah's Ark, and you got 4 that escaped from Sodom and Gomorrah. But Lot's wife turned into salt. So there was 12, but then there was there was a one person that was so there was kind of like 11 that ended up surviving all that. Okay, well, that reminded me of the 12 disciples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The 12th disciple, Judas, betrayed Jesus, and he ended up hanging himself. And so there was 11 temporarily for a while. Remember that 11 means chaos. Okay, and so it's interesting how this story parallels with that story in terms of the 12 going to 11. This 32 isn't really as big of a deal as the 84 for me, but this also is just worth noting. Noah had 3 sons. Lot had 2 daughters. So 3 sons and 2 daughters. 2032, 84. And that's neat. Noah had a wife, nameless. Lot had a wife, nameless. Jacob had 2 wives. They have names, Leah and Rachel. And we believe that Jacob would have married Leah and Rachel at age 84. It's called Jacob's Trouble. And he worked for Leah and Rachel for 7 years. He worked for Leah initially. He was thinking he was working for Rachel for 7 years, but he actually worked for Leah for 7 years. And then he was given Rachel a week or 2 or 3 after Leah was given in marriage. And then he worked another 7 years for Rachel, marrying them both at looks like to be age 84. And so will Jacob's trouble end at that time? Now, here's some other charts, just a refresher of some stuff, but so this is a new thing, which is very relatable to what I just talked about. Lot, in Hebrew, the value of Lot is lamed, vav, and tet. Well, that's 45. So Lot also equals 45. That is quite interesting because remember we talked about Adam, and Adam equals 2025. 45 times 45 is 2025. there's other charts here I'll just mention really quick, or you could even take a screenshot of that. I've talked about that a lot, but this is the leftover baskets of the 5,000, the leftover baskets of the 4,000. Jesus reminds them, hey, 12 and 7, remember, 12 times 7. Remember Luke chapter 2 talking about the 12 and the 7 and the 84 in that chapter. And you could take a look at the old videos there. The 77th verse of the Bible spells Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the name of the Lord. And the 84th verse does the same thing, in equal letter distance skip. And we're going to talk about that in a second. There's something fascinating that I just found before this video. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh there. So 2025 is 77 years from 1948. 2032 is 84 years from 1948 when Israel became a nation. It looks like Aaron the high priest was consecrated at age 84. Will Jesus, our high priest, be consecrated when Israel is 84? This was my sheet on how I figured out the math on as to how Jacob was 84 when he married Leah and Rachel. You can look at these verses here if you'd like, or check out that video from last year. Looks like Israel's never been a sovereign nation longer than 80 years. 2028 could be maybe the midpoint still at this point. You never know, in which Israel would be 80 years. Here's the picture of the tabernacle. You got your 45s in there. You got 4 pillars on the inside of the tabernacle with Moses, 5 pillars on the outside, 7 lampstands, 12 tables of showbread. 7 times 12 is 84. It's been 84 years since 1948 if we are looking at a 2032 second coming. And there's that. Now here's the really cool thing. Here's the really fascinating thing. In Genesis 19, when we're talking about Lot, this is my Hebrew interlinear Bible, and I love doing the equal letter distance skip stuff. I'll take a Hebrew letter and I'll count it out. Okay, ready? This is so neat. So Genesis 19, we're talking about the story of Lot. We just finished talking about Lot's wife over here. She looked behind him and she became a pillar of salt. Well, a couple verses later, we have Lot, which equals 45 in Hebrew, right here. So that's the value of Lot. A lamed, a vav, and a tet equals 45. But here we have, when he's talking about his 2 daughters, his firstborn daughters, procreating with him, the ones that were saved. Well, this is Bekarah. I think the Strong's number is, let me just double check. I think it's H10, just looking online here really quick, 1 second. 1067, Bekarah. And yeah, and so that's the firstborn in terms of the daughters. Well, this word actually ends up tying back to the Hebrew word that we find in Feast of Weeks. How about that? H1069, which brings us back to H1061. And that's all tied up with the Feast of Weeks. How many days do we count to the Feast of Weeks? It's 49 days. And then on the 50th day, it's your big day. So that's Bekarah, H1067. Again, tied with the Feast of Weeks. And wouldn't you know it? You skip 49 letters. And then on the 50th letter, it spells Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the name of the Lord in Genesis 19 in the story of Lot, when his 2 daughters are procreating with him. So we're looking for an escape. Lot had an escape. And it's Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. Essentially, you can count it every 50th letter it happens, or you skip exactly over 49 letters. There's 49 letters between a Yod and the Hey. There's 49 letters between this Hey and this Vav, and there's 49 letters between this Vav and this Hey. If you include the count of this letter, then it ends up being 50 letters. That's exactly the day count for Leviticus 23 when it's talking about Bakar. And I'm going to show you in English what I'm talking about here. So here's the English, and you see this word first fruits, that's the Bakar. So the same word that you literally see here with Bekarah, this is the firstborn of the female. Well, this first fruits, that's the same Hebrew word with it's slightly different spelling because it's male versus female, but it's the same meaning, first fruits. So God's name goes from Bekarah to Bekarah. Yod Hey, to make alive. We're waiting to be made alive and be brought to our a new life. And then it ends with this word, the younger one. So I think that's incredible that the code, the 49-letter skip code, goes from a word that the feminine version of this word, Bikara, to Bikara. And his name, Jesus' name, essentially means to save. And so I believe that we are the two wave lobes here, Leviticus 23:17. I think that's us. And it just so happens that we have the name of our Lord coded every 49 letters, or in other words, every 50 letters, skipping over 49 letters or every 50 letters in Genesis 19 when it's talking about the days of Lot. And so going back to this chart, here's our final just review here. There was 8 people on the boat, and then there was 4 people that escaped. In Sodom and Gomorrah, one fell off and bumped his head, and there was 12 disciples. One fell off and I'm thinking about some sort of a childhood. I think I'm thinking about Humpty Dumpty or something. Anyway, 12 went to 11 in both cases, and we're waiting for, this final 7 years, but we expect to be out of here before the 7 years. Is 2032 going to be the second coming? Minus 7 years. And is 2025 going to be our time of departure? Time will tell. But I think the biggest thing that I just want you guys to remember is 8 from Noah's Ark and 4 over here that escaped. 8 and a 4. Pretty cool stuff. Thanks for passing that along, Jessica. I love that kind of stuff. And go Team Jesus, guys. We're one day closer. Either way we slice the cake. Adios, muchachos.